doesn't something smell a little fishy to you? Let me tell you what I mean. Have you noticed that, well, perhaps it's a coincidence, but it's a very interesting coincidence that I want to bring up to your attention. And we'll see it by the time I'm done with my conclusion, if we still believe it's a coincidence. You see, coincidence don't really occur. Even though people say that coincidence occur, there's no coincidence in things occurring. It's just that, well, it's a matter of your perception that you have chosen to believe that it's a coincidence. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a smear campaign. A smear campaign against two individuals that have a lot in common with each other. But they're not from, well, they kind of are from the same place. And that's interesting in and of itself. Now, before we get into this, for those of you who don't know what a smear campaign is, a smear campaign is something that's orchestrated, meaning this is well thought out. It's organized, it's planned. There's a lot of different characters and moving parts to the puzzle piece, so to speak. Now, that's what a smear campaign is. When something is orchestrated and planned out to purposely, well, attack and smear another individual. And this is certainly an orchestrated smear campaign. At the highest level, I guarantee you that. It's well funded. It's well oiled. And, well, we know why it's occurring too. I'll get to all of those things in due time. But what's this smear campaign, you're asking? Well, here it is in a nutshell. Have you noticed? Remember, this is just a coincidence. We haven't proved anything yet. Have you noticed, though, that two of the highest profile women on the planet Earth right now, not in terms of wealth, not necessarily even in terms of, well, class, but status, the two highest women in terms of status on our planet right now are under constant attack by, well, a well-orchestrated smear campaign, both on social media and in, well, the regular media, so to speak. Now, you have to ask yourself, is it also a coincidence that the smear campaigns are happening simultaneously at the same time for both individuals involved? You'd have to believe that that's also a coincidence too, wouldn't you? Remember, the Purple People's Owl doesn't personally believe in coincidence. This is the big leagues. I know how these things work. I know who orchestrates it. I just don't tell you those parts. I let you figure out that. There's some things that you have to do on your own. But I know full well we'll get around to the glossy area of touching on who does these things. Because, well, they leave a trace, so to speak. Anyway, these two women have the highest status right now in our society. The Duchess of Sussex and the Vice President of the United States of America. Now, we've established that they're both identify as women. But there's something else we've got to establish that they both have an identity in. They both identify as, well, being biracial, being melanated women. Now, it's a mighty interesting coincidence, isn't it, that this smear campaign is targeted at, well, two of the highest status women currently on our planet, and they just so happen to be women of color. That's another coincidence, because, well, that coincidence leads to the whole notion of this has nothing to do with ethnicity and race. Of course not. Whoever made such a claim? I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I'll make that claim shortly. You know what else is a coincidence? You know what else is odd? That the attacks online, let's go to that. The attacks online to smear both of these individuals are coming from, well, a handful of accounts. Now, I'm not sure how much knowledge some of the viewers have about accounts on social media, so let me explain briefly. A Twitter account, an individual can make multiple accounts. A group working in tandem with other individuals, they can make thousands of accounts. They can even create bot accounts. Because you see, a lot of these accounts are not operated by real life humans. They're AI bots. They're not even real accounts. But they help pad the numbers of, well, the users on these social media platforms. In fact, the study and research came out stating that the attacks against Meghan Markle online, there were thousands and thousands of tweets and Instagram posts and memes and all of those things. Do you know that out of 70,000 tweets, memes, Instagram posts, that only 73 accounts were responsible for 70,000 posts attacking and smearing Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex? 73 accounts responsible for 70,000 plus posts. Now, I know some people like to post nonsense every second, but 73 divided by 70,000 plus, it's not something any mere mortal can do. It's what I'm trying to allude to. This was bot generated, meaning that somebody orchestrated the bots to do it. Now, I have my theories on who these individuals are that do this, but it's just that. I have no proof, so I don't like alleging things without substantial proof. I could get in trouble for doing such a thing. We all could. So, while I don't have specifics as to names of individuals who do these type of things, I do know that the platforms allow for such things to be done. And you have to wonder why. Why do the platforms allow for, well, people to create thousands of bot accounts that are fake accounts? The algorithm can pick up that they're fake accounts. Why not just clear them as soon as they're created? Why leave them on your platform to purposely, well, spread misinformation, to smear and, well, tarnish people's reputations? Why do that? It's lucrative. When you hire these bots, you have to pay the social media platform to utilize these bots. So it's lucrative to the companies. That's why they leave them on. Also, it also helps set narratives and trends online. You see, if you have thousands of bot accounts use certain hashtags, then it starts to trend. So a lot of these trends that have to do with right-leaning content are socially engineered to trend, meaning they wouldn't trend based off of actual participation by actual users of the platforms. They only trend because bots are engineered using the algorithm to make these things trend. Wouldn't you know? Now, you had all kinds of newspaper articles and magazines come up with all kinds of things attacking Meghan Markle last year. I mean, you had reporters in newspapers inquire about, well, what the baby would look like using a picture of a monkey. You had, well, a reporter for a magazine alleged that, well, Harry and Meghan, they look happy, but she was suspicious. There was something niggling with her about the picture. Now, you had people hired to, well, pretend that they might have had, well, relations with Meghan Markle, offered up to $70,000 to lie about having relations with a woman to, well, present the image that, well, this person is loose. You know how we have misogynistic perceptions about women who have relationships with individuals, but no such stigma or, you know, theories exist when it comes to men. Oh no. Donald Trump being credibly accused of raping and molesting underage girls, 14 in fact. We don't talk about that. That's not something that Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity want to bring up. But Tucker Carlson definitely wants to know about Kamala Harris's past relationships. He says that informs people. It's something that we don't know about. It's a missing piece of the puzzle with Kamala Harris, what her previous relationships were. Tucker, keep that same energy and go find those 14 underage girls that credibly allege that they were molested by Donald John Trump. Keep that same fucking energy, Tucker Carlson. But you won't, will you? Fake ass. Orchestrated campaign of smears against two women of color who have the highest status in our society. Nothing suspicious about that. It's just a coincidence, I'm sure. Now, yesterday, on the day that the infrastructure deal was signed into law, generally speaking, it's a win for the political party that accomplishes something of that magnitude. Because generally speaking, nothing gets done in Washington, D.C. But on that same day, CNN, the most trusted name in news, decided that they wanted to run a story about, well, dysfunction in the White House. And wouldn't you know, the dysfunction is coming from the vice president towards the president. Now, I don't know how deep level your history of American governance and politics is, but one side of the coin says that, well, the vice president, the current vice president, Kamala Harris, has been invisible. They're hiding it. You know, that bullshit. Did anybody see Mike Pence for 4 years until COVID hit? All you heard every day for 4 years was what Donald Trump was tweeting on his Twitter account. I mean, if there was like 20 tweets in a day, that was what got covered the whole day and night. You never heard Mike Pence's name for 4 years until COVID happened, and then January 6th, the insurrection, where he had to hide in fear for his life. That was the only 2 times you heard about Mike Pence in 4 years. You've already heard more about Kamala Harris than you heard about Mike Pence in 4 years. But I think the reason you're hearing a lot about Kamala Harris is, one, because she's a woman. In America, you know, is quite racist. But it's also quite misogynistic too. And she just so happens to fit into both of those categories. So it's like a double whammy. I feel some empathy for her. You know? Really do. Because I know who the scoundrels are that are purporting to do these smear campaigns. You know, we have a system that's very racist. And we also have a system that's very misogynistic. And the people who operate this system are old white Anglo-Saxon men. And these old white Anglo-Saxon men are very racist and misogynistic. These are the people who were, well, caught up in the Me Too movement. They're the only fuckers with money. And, well, you gotta play their game to a certain extent if you want to be in the system. You gotta raise campaign money. You gotta, well, position yourself as the tough person on crime if you want to win over male support. You gotta play the bullshit game. But even when you do all the game theory bullshit correctly, you still can't get over the hump of, well, I wonder what she's wearing. And you know, she's burying her arms. You know, they talked about Michelle Obama. It was so unclassy for her to reveal her arms. That was a big deal. And then when she came on Ellen DeGeneres and she danced, they alleged that they saw a bulge in her pants. And she must be a transgender individual now. But that was just a coincidence too, because we had never had a first lady who was African American before. So it wasn't racism either. It was just a coincidence. Even though none of those things were ever said about any first lady before. Jacqueline Kennedy always bared her arms. She's photographed in multiple pictures baring her arms. But Michelle Obama was unclassy when she did it. We're not racist. We're not misogynistic. We're very nice people. We've got to stick with the lie. There's no smear campaign. It's a figment of the purple people's owl's imagination. You're seeing things that don't exist. You're drawing conclusions where there shouldn't be any conclusions drawn. You're making assumptions about things that are not true. You're trying to diminish people who are really good people and doing the best they can do. You're disparaging groups of people who you don't know. You know all the bullshit that they'll throw. Because, well, they generally always do. Now you gotta remember that these platforms were by and large created by men at Silicon Valley. The tech industry is a bro culture. It's Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro type people that work as developers for these tech platforms. That's why they censor people who, well, speak out against white supremacy, who are anti-racist, who are anti-fascist. Because fundamentally those views are not congruent with white supremacy. They go against, well, the established order of, well, white supremacy, which is toxic masculinity in a nutshell. Now, these are smear campaigns. Generally speaking, smear campaigns work. I know some people say smear campaigns don't work, but they actually do. Because it's not necessarily about everybody believing the smear. It's just about enough people, well, having some doubt. Putting some doubt there in people's minds. You know, they keep talking about approval ratings. Kamala Harris is so disliked. Her approval rating is 28%. She's not liked. Nobody likes her. You know, they have to do this to try to engineer an opinion in your mind that, well, maybe she's not a good person. If people don't approve of her, she's not a good person. They're trying to make false correlations in your mind. This is how a smear campaign works. Now, here's the thing. The same people that say the news is fake, you know, for 4 years, their cult leader told them fake news. The news media is fake. But now these will be the same people who regurgitate back CNN polls to me. I'm like your cult leader, but I'm not your cult leader. But I kind of agree with your cult leader. It's fake news. It can't be fake when it's something that's, well, unfavorable to your point of view. But then reality when it's something that's not favorable to your point of view, and vice versa. It has to be consistent. It's either fake all the time or it's true all the time. I'm telling you, the logic these people want to string along, it makes no sense. Anyway, this is an orchestrated smear campaign against two women of status, highest status in our society, two very well educated and brilliant women in our society. And as much as possible, we should reject it. It's old, it's stale, it's worn out. It basically gives us the prepositional thought that, well, women are not capable of, well, actual real status and position and power and leadership. So just think about who the next guy or man is going to be. Preferably white man. Because we had one black president, and that was horrible. So we got to go back to those white men again. It's to put that idea in your mind that change is not good, especially when it involves women of color. They're just not popular with the society. You know, I don't know what to say to some of this bullshit. Besides it's complete bullshit. But the people that actually put it out there and fund it, they actually believe it's true. It's on all the rest of us to just show them that they're senile and they're delusional, and it's certainly not true. It's on all of us to do that, and I think we will. I have no doubt about that.